To a brand new week, a Monday on this 18th day of August, over half the month gone already. We say that all the time. And busy morning for us. We start out talking to Representative Tim Beeson. 10 o'clock this morning, I am reunited with a former broadcast partner and former person who did many, many stints in news here at WSGW. Ann Williams will join us. And at 11 o'clock this morning, we'll talk to Mindy McIntosh from McIntosh & Associates about the big, beautiful bill. Anyway, as I mentioned, we start out this morning saying good morning to State Representative Tim Beeson. Timmy, good morning.
Good morning, Art.
How's everything going?
Everything is great. My wife and I, we just got 25 years in, and we went out cheeseburger this last weekend to that festival. That was awesome.
Did you? Excellent, excellent. All right, let's start with a couple of things that have been pretty prominent in the news. First of all, we all sit here, 270,000 of us unrepresented in the state Senate. Is there any movement at all to get the governor off the dime to do a special election?
I don't see that happening, but we can only cross our fingers and hope that she does the right thing instead of continuing leaving us in suspense when this is going to happen.
By November, it won't matter anymore, will it?
Well, it really didn't. It mattered this year for budget negotiations because going back to work tomorrow, working on the budget, and I have to have my presentation for the law and diffs all ready to go, and we don't have somebody in the Senate advocating for Saginaw Bay and Midland.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like we will. There's absolutely no recourse. There really isn't.
There really is. I know there's a lawsuit put in place, but there was a lawsuit put in place before, and the governor won the lawsuit. I think that it's people saying you got to do something about it, but it's like saying if you know the rules.
Well, I think the failure is in the Constitution that it doesn't have a date certain.
Correct. But once again, that has to be changed with the idea that you want to change it. And right now, I think that with the 19-18 majority in the Senate, I don't think she's got an appetite to change it.
No, because she's afraid she'd lose it.
And even a tie, we could start actually venting some of the people that she's appointing, right? But it's okay. I mean, but the thing is what she is doing is she is setting precedents for every governor going now.
Well, that's true. That's true. All right. Well,
and it doesn't.
Go ahead.
But we're doing it. We just keep our heads to the grindstone, keep working on the budget, and we do the best we can.
So let's talk about the budget. How far along are we in actually having one?
So each one of us subcommittees next week or this coming week, we're all there and we're going through with our caucus and explaining where we're at. And, there's something to be said about putting that budget out. If we were to put that budget out a little bit earlier, we would be cutting things. And then where do you start to cut? Everybody doesn't want their area cut, right? So, it's like running a business. You're going to have to cut some areas with less than $1 billion coming from the federal. But on the same side, we all talk about, well, we're going to be $1 billion short. We still spent, I think, over $3 trillion into the deficit. So we should be cutting a lot more than what we're at.
Well, it seems, we heard the budget was going to be $84 billion, which is way up. And then we lost $1 billion from the feds. We still got 83. Can't we live on that?
Well, you would think so. And it's funny that I chuckle because, when I started, it was 63, and then we got a supplemental, and, every year. And, we're doing a lot for $80 billion. But on the same side, at what point in time do we say, hey, we have to cut some areas? And I think this is the year that we just don't continue adding a whole bunch more full-time equivalent employees with legacy costs to the state of Michigan, to the budget.
So if I asked you what parts of the budget do you think are settled right now, do you think there are areas that are settled and will make it through the process?
I would say that between you and I don't feel that many areas are settled. But I'm also, remember, I'm not in the management, the upper house. I'm just a subcommittee chair. I'm not like, the vice chair of appropriations. So those meetings are going on right now. Ann Bolin is amazing. And I know that they're trying to say, hey, live within your means in these areas, right? We don't want to increase taxes. And we definitely know that we got to do something about the roads. And we also got to get the school budget done because these kids are going back to school.
All right, let's talk about the school budget and likes and dislikes about it. Do we need to pump more money into it?
So here's the thing, right? If you look at, we have a failing schooling system. We really do. And the more money that we pump into a failing system is still a failing system. I mean, we've got it, but there are a few aspects of our school budget and some of the merit pay and some of these programs these pilot programs that are popping up that are working for certain areas that you wouldn't think it would work. And it's working. So we just got to look at the areas that are doing well, right? And mimic it. And all the areas that we're struggling in, we need to change.
One of the things that happened in the last budget was apparently there was a reduction. The governor had proposed a reduction in the mental health aspect of education funding. Do you expect to see that restored or increased?
I expect to see that back to where we were before this budget the last couple of years. So I'm hoping, but you know what? I am, like I say, even though I'm on that subcommittee, I'm not at that table trying to, but I advocate for our mental health and our youth, especially in the school systems, because with the anxiety and where the kids are at, that's a necessity.
Let's talk about that elsewhere too. Mental health in terms of funding mental health agencies and acquiring beds for mental health, which we seem to be lacking greatly. Any progress in that area, do you think?
So we definitely are lacking. I don't think we have an adequate number for the youth. I even got a $5 million budget request back in the first 2 years I was there for Bay County for mental health under the age of 18. But it's not that we can't find the funding. Is you also got to find the people to do the job, right? I think that's the as much as funding as you want to get. If you don't have people applying for the mental health jobs in our schools or even in the private, like seeing people after school, and that's where it's at. My wife is a mental health counselor, so I see it. As she's going back to school today, that's we appreciate all the people going back to school, but there is a big need for it.
Well, it's been going on a long time, and I talked to judges like Pat McGraw will tell you that there's just not enough beds. He has no place to send people.
Correct. And that's something that we should talk about because there's even some ones that were in the DHHS budget that I'm on there. We're kind of closing some areas up in the UP where we used to send these people. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, so some people are saying, well, it's too far for me to drive. And then people up there is like, now they have to come down here. And there's something to be said about, and I really think that it has a lot to do with our state is good at saying, this is my area, this is my budget, this is my grant. Don't do anything because we depend upon it. And there's something to be said when those grants in different areas of the budget dry up, there are going to be some cuts, right? Like you can't sustain when you're not making the money. You're right.
It's just, it just seems to be such a contradiction in terms that we hear the budget's increasing, yet we hear cut, and they don't go together. Yes.
Well, you're right, but also you got to have a budget that's based on the amount of money, right? Like you can't just hope that raising taxes is not the benefit of Michiganders. We shouldn't be raising taxes on our elderly population. We shouldn't be raising taxes on anybody because if we keep raising taxes, people continue to leave our state. When you don't make it attractive for retirees to stay here, then guess what?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work. I'm excited for entrepreneurs because we have a lot of young people that are getting into that, and I really appreciate that's a win.
Well, it is. That's your bailiwick, and we'll talk more about that. I got to take a break, Tim. We'll be right back. 96th District Representative Tim Beeson, our guest this morning, and we'll have more with him when we return.
Gotta go.
agree on much, but we agree on Social Security. We all pay in. It ought to be there when we need it.
And we are back with you on the Art Lewis Show, talking to 96th District Representative Tim Beeson. Tim, you're not only a former small businessman, but you're also the chair of the LARA Committee, the Licensing and Regulations Committee. One of the complaints we hear all the time from people going into business, entrepreneurs, is the problems they seem to have dealing with the state when it comes to licensing and regulation. And that is particularly true in the liquor control area where they want, beverage licenses. There seems to be a never-ending request for a form, and then another form, and then another form, and then another form. Any progress in streamlining that process?
It's not just with liquor control. It's in many departments of license and regulatory. What the problem is they don't tell you what you need to do to be successful or what the paperwork needs to be done. They just tell you that the paperwork is not complete, and they don't count any days. And we're having it right at the little meat shop that we're having start up, and this is with MDARD. So it's not just Michigan Liquor Control. And as they've got better, but you're right, some of the bars and restaurants are really upset with the ordering system. And what we hear in Lansing is everything is better. Look how much money we're making for the state, And as that sounds great, it's all about customer service. And we got to quit being a gotcha state. You got to open up so that the departments are like, hey, we want you in business. We want you in business now, not 3 weeks ago, not 2 months ago. We need to get the permits through faster. And that's some legislation that I'd be excited to work with some of my colleagues on both sides to make the state accountable. What a novel idea.
They say, look, all the money we're making for the state, is that coming out of the pocket of the entrepreneur?
Coming out of the... No, that's because the state actually, all the liquor goes through the state of Michigan, so you can't sell liquor in our state unless it goes through Michigan.
On the liquor side, yeah.
The liquor and yeah. So, but we're working on it to make it so that the liquor stores and the beer stores and even some of the can make a bigger profit if they want to, right? Because some areas, I mean, if you're only working on liquor and beer as your only revenue in some of these little stores, it's pretty tough, to make it on, a regulated, a heavy regulated and area of retail,
So what's explain the responsibility of your committee, Laura?
So Laura has there's a lot of committees or there's a lot of departments that I'm in charge of, like the regulatory affairs, and then there's also things like the subcommittees that are in there, and each one has a lot of people that work from the state, and this is my concern is we have a lot of people at the state offices that are working remote. And there's something to be said about that, the hybrid, right? I kind of want to see more about, tell me what that hybrid means, like, because before COVID, it seems like things, and they're like, well, we get through just as good after COVID. But I got to tell you, like, we have a little business trying to open, and it's having trouble with MDARD, and they've been in the same thing for the same 3 weeks. So now it stinks that I have to get involved just for a little meat retail shop to open up, right?
Yeah.
Like how many other, when does somebody get frustrated, overwhelmed with the state and say, and that's not what we want to do, because that does not siphon growth at all, right? That's just the opposite.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what a hybrid is because I am one. I come into the radio station.
Yep.
In the morning, work here during the morning, and in the afternoon, I work at home.
Okay, perfect. So you do come into the office.
I'm in the
right?
office. I'm in the office every day. Yeah, I get here around anywhere from 7:15 to 7:30 in the morning, and I'm good till 11:30 or thereabouts. And then I go home.
And that perfect. So you come into the office every day. Even that hybrid, right? There's something about that says yes, you have opportunity to mingle with your coworkers, which they can. That way you can hit instead of sending an email, right? You can talk. There's something about that interaction because we got to teach that interaction is important, right? Because
Absolutely.
It happens in every little small business, and this interaction, like I would promote that even 4 days a week where they would come to the office, but a hybrid where they only come in 2 days a week and work from home. I just things don't get done, but but that also stems back to we need to make our state where we want business to come in and we want to give you permits. We want you to be successful. We need you here in the state of Michigan so that way generating revenue, costing more, creating more power. People like it's like every business is a small little micro state, right? And it matters to have them here for little jobs for young people to start out.
And we hear about the big ones. We hear about the Cornings and the Hemlock Semiconductors and the SK Siltrons. We don't hear about the mom and pop. And they are the backbone.
They are the backbone. They're the ones that are going to hire your kids at like 14, 15, 16 and teach them work ethic. So that way you're not paying for all their wants. You're only paying for their needs.
Oh, I like that. Very good.
My kids don't like that, but you have to let them do that, right? You have to let them live on their budget. And I think the state needs to do the same. We just can't keep adding more people to the workforce at the state of Michigan with legacy costs of $125,000 per employee.
And that's on average, right? Some are higher, some are lower.
Correct. If you saw, and I would say that, you know what, if the state rep or the Senate rate is so good or the governor rate is so good to be that person, I feel that nobody in the state of Michigan should make more than them, but they're making a lot more because they get a raise every year, right? And it's not like, and I would be fine if they got a raise based on merit. Like, hey, you guys opened up 7,400 new businesses in the state of Michigan. Damn right we're 5% raise, and a cost of living raise. But when they're getting raises and we're not increasing, that's what I don't like to see in Laura, when we're decreasing businesses that they're regulating across the board, or decreasing the amount of mom and pop shops, whatever the business is, and still having more people work. You would think that with computers, we'd be streamlining so it'd be easier, maybe a bigger IT, but maybe not as many in the field.
Well, it just seems that, when the budget grows, they feel that means they get a raise. And
they get a raise every year.
That's
sir.
what I mean.
Not because
even if the budget doesn't grow, they get the raise, huh? That's the problem. Go ahead.
But the other thing is you're right, but some of those people that are in those departments, the ones that you got to call back to get to the right person that knows how to do the right thing because they are doing it from home and they're not showing people in the office, that's what I feel like we're lacking, right? And they're like, well, we get there 2 days a week or 3 days a week. And I thought to myself, well, imagine if your substation or your pizza shop decides that they're only going to, or even your police officers are only going to work 3 days a week. Yep, the rest are hybrid.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, before COVID, during COVID, I get it, right? We didn't know, but uncertain. But the people that were in the office before COVID, they need to come back to work, or I would say that they would need a different type of compensation.
All right, hang on. Take a break. We'll be back. We're talking to State Representative Tim Beeson from the 96th District. Let me take a moment to talk about Quick Lane Freeland at McDonald Ford. As you well know, particularly if you suffer from allergies, this has not been a good year for allergies. And Quick Lane in Freeland has an answer to keep you healthy while you're driving. It's a product called FrigiFresh. It's inserted into your car's air conditioner. And to hear more about it, from Quick Lane Freeland, here's John.
FrigiFresh. Hi.
83 or 82 or 83 billion without roads. And how would they think how you're going to fix that then? You're just going to, and then we come up with $1 billion less, and then you're just going to pick, instead of coming to the table and saying that, I think the budget's going to be around 79 to 80 billion dollars, and we can do it, and we do it without adding more legacy costs of full-time equivalent employees. I keep asking every director, when do you give back all the people we have hired to the state? And they said, well, we never. But you have to, right? Because you have to live within a balanced budget. And I got to tell you, Ann Boleyn is doing a great job. I really respect the way that she's doing the budget and letting us run our departments.
So would you expect the budget to be done by the end of September?
I would hope the budget's definitely done by September. We're coming out with our House budget, it sounds like the end of the next week, and we kind of we have to get it done, right? So it's not going to be where the holdup is. The holdup is are we going to try to get too much in the budget and too much special interest, like always, right? And and that's what I don't like. Is a special interest going to to push certain areas. And we tried to go this year where a lot of the stuff in the budget was not for administration to a lot of these nonprofits that are asking for money for the great things they do for our state. But at some time, you just can't keep doing handouts, right? Like you have to figure out a way to be sustainable without the state government always handing you money. Especially for your,
go ahead.
Yeah. Especially for your administration. Like if the state is paying for a nonprofit organization in administration, like the CEO and that, and they're using the money they're getting from the state of Michigan, when that dries up, that business is going to dry up, right? Right? Like it's got to be able to start thinking of ways that it can survive on its own, without the state handout all the time.
There's been a lot of talk with the federal government, big beautiful bill and all of that stuff, what it may cost the state. They're saying $1 billion and Medicaid could be impacted. Any thoughts on that?
The 1.1 billion is what we've heard about, but we've only got that briefed in the last, in the last 2 weeks, kind of like, so we had to go back but like in my budget, I have a lot of funds that are not general fund, right? So you can't restricted fund. You just can't move around unless you got to change your whole thing. So you don't get to really move restricted funds. But there's something to be said about restricted funds is we use all the restricted funds up just so that we use them up and say, hey, we're within our means and not help other areas, right? So that's what I try to do. I'm like, well, why can't we do it like this? And they get back with me. I mean, I always ask a lot of questions that they're like, oh no. No, but if I'm asking or thinking that, somebody else is thinking the same thing. And instead of a deflection, right? Let's hear the answer, because if the answer doesn't seem logical for a business person, like it shouldn't seem logical for our taxpayers, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right, hang on. Take one more break here. We'll be back to finish up. State Representative Tim Beeson from the 96th District.
I'm Attorney Jerry Reif, and I have
We're back with you on the Art Lewis Show, finishing up talking to 96th District Representative Tim Beeson. Tim, there's a picture of you online at a DNR hearing. Sitting next to you is the man himself, Ted Nugent. This was a DNR accountability hearing, I believe, and I get to talk to Ted Nugent tomorrow. But part of that hearing was talking about the DNR and their regulatory role. Any progress in smoothing that out?
It's got to get smoother. Otherwise, it's going to continue to put more people, licensed facilities that are out there, like my relatives, and they're going to do away with it. So it's going to get done at somebody's pole barn or garage that don't have it. And I don't think that I'm not saying hunters can't do it, because I love all the hunters that process their own deer and just have me make their sausage. They're my favorite. In fact, I try to teach everybody. But it doesn't matter whether you're processing a deer or processing duck or processing goose or any other of your wild game. The proper handling it, is crucial. But I don't think that you're going to see it right now until we work the budget in and say, hey, we're going to need this kind of done. And maybe with the budget, we can get some of the stuff back that the outdoors people want back, and not increasing fees for fishing and hunting and everything else. That's not how you get more people into sport.
No, are you still licensed processor?
I was licensed last year. I'm probably going to get licensed this year just to be licensed. I'm not really for hire. I'm kind of more for help, like when somebody needs me but I was licensed. But I do have a licensed retail meat store. So I have a licensed MDARD licensed meat retail store. And I only just operate out of my uncle's store because I'm busy with this job. It's pretty tough to do this job on the side, being the state rep, even though some of the people that got me into this said, yeah, you'll be off all summer. You can run your business. It's not true.
Right.
No, it's like your radio job for 75 years. They say, yeah, hybrid. You still got to put a lot of time in to being successful.
Boy, isn't that the truth? So
Yeah, you got a lot of grit. You got a lot of grit for 75 years. There's something to be said because we've been in for 114. Grandpa Henry, then my Grandpa Joe, then my dad, and even my Uncle Pat, and my cousin Ron. Like, it takes a lot of grit getting up every day at 6:30, going into this business, and that's something to be said about
particularly a business like the meat business, which is so dependent on commodity pricing. And look at meat pricing today. What's wrong with it? You understand that business better than I do.
Well, we also made a lot of barriers where we can't buy from the local farmers. Like, I can't buy the local farm beef and make sausage and burgers and do it. You have to go through.
Why not?
That's the rules that I'm hoping that this federal administration changes, because they make it so that the state and even the federal laws is you can't just kill the local animal, get it slaughtered at their farm, and I can't then take it to my retail because it doesn't go through a USDA shop. There's a lot of things that need to be a lot easier. And if they say beef is scary, they do it we need a lot more cottage food laws where people can actually trade, barter, and sell to their neighbors. They can't even sell jelly. There's like so many rules. There's so many rules to deal with the food industry, and I think it's because the big companies, I don't use any of it, but the big companies love putting all the preservatives to make the food last so long, but that's not good for you, putting sodium nitrate into something so you can cryovac it or so you can get the shelf life is not better than the way that you grew up without, and you just put it in Ziploc bags and threw it in the freezer.
Yeah.
You probably had Tupperware, Art. You probably used Tupperware.
Oh, I
back in the
absolutely
day.
still do.
Yeah,
So
right. That Tupperware. Yeah.
let me ask you this, Timmy. When the day comes that you either decide not to run or you're term limited, and now you find yourself out of the legislature, back at home, would you reopen a business? Would you reopen a meat market, for example?
I would totally reopen it, and I'm going to continue to keep going up the ladder to push the departments that are regulating. I'm like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, I'm in that industry. We've got to have these people that come to Lansing or come to D.C. that understand. They got to be passionate, but they got to understand the food, because we keep implementing a law. And if it wasn't for my good friend Tullio Liberati that made sure that I told Frank, his brother, that's probably going to run for the House again, that he was going to have to do all these new food codes and have all these licenses that make it more hard or difficult for business to stay in business, because you can't find people that want to get those qualifications and stay true to your business, and the state's going to mandate us to have them. That's the only reason why we, before lame duck happened, that we didn't have a new food code. And it would have put a lot of places out of business, or at least made it so they can't sell coffee, hot Tostitos like the 7-Eleven. It would have made it so that not just the owner, but somebody would have had to have food safe certification all the time, even though you have an SOP that says these are good for 2 hours. We're regulating business unless they put chemical in it to make it last. That's the problem.
So we are, if I hear you right, we are just plain overregulated.
Yeah, and the thing is okay, so we have our own insurance, right, to cover if something happens, right? And the bigger the company, if they get somebody sick, right, they have insurance too, but you never hear about it because they usually have deep pockets and they're putting newspaper articles or they're supplying advertising on the radio. But I'm telling you, there is something to be said about just good, solid food that your next door neighbor raises, right? And you eat and you can and you do that and you share. And they want regulation after regulation. If you want to go to a farmer's market, you got to have this, you got to have this. And I'm thinking, man, what happened to? If you produce it yourself, you paid for it. Why does it have to go down that route? And there's something to be said about that, because every time you get it to a big company, you have big problems. A little company, little problems.
So, in closing, if you had not been in the meat and grocery business, and you were just a working stiff, you worked for somebody, then you became a state representative, and now you're going to be out of the legislature in term limited, whenever that is, would you as an individual open a business today in today's business
Absolutely.
climate? So you're an entrepreneur at heart.
Yeah, like actually, I'm not trying to be mean. I was thinking that my wife hopes I try for something really hard so that I get back into the business world where we actually generate a little more revenue than this spot. But I love this job. I love